Hey, book besties! Welcome to More Than a Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Leyna.
And I'm your other host, LJ.
And today we are talking about a new book. This is really exciting because I think we have different opinions on it. So that's going to be kind of fun. I think we do. We have read Sunrise on the Reaping, and now we're going to talk about it. And there will be some spoilers, but before we get to that, I did want to say shout out to Rebecca. She was our very first supporter of the podcast.
Woohoo!
So we are officially making money off of our podcast. This is a big step for us, y'all. We're very excited. If you would also like to support us, please, you don't have to, but if you would like to, you can support us by going to buymeacoffee.com/morethanabookklubbpod. And I will put that into the show notes as well. And you can donate any denomination. I think it pops up like 25 or 50. You can donate like $2. Anything helps. I think LJ has said that she's a single mom. She's a teacher. Play my little violin here.
Yes.
We do this because we love it. And if nobody's listening, that's also fun. But if people are listening and if people are supporting us, that's even more fun. And if money isn't a thing that you can do right now, that's okay too. You can still support us by engaging in our content, by liking, commenting on anything. If you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, however you're listening to us, if you comment on there or rate us, that also helps us out some too. So you can still support us without having to be a financial supporter. So just wanted to throw that out there if anybody wanted to, and to thank Rebecca for being our very first supporter, making us legit podcasters. I would like to say.
We're officially paid. And speaking of Rebecca, I have to share something interesting because if you listened, her book was inspired by the true story of her friend who was killed and then her organs were donated and saved lives. Well, we are also talking about diabetes because that came up in that one too. And one of my type 1 diabetic friends from Camp Sweeney, so shout out to all the Camp Sweeney campers of all time, not just the ones that I know, she posted that she was on her way to Dallas for her kidney pancreas transplant. So it was just that we had just talked about this. I thought it was so cool so Melanie, praying for you, hope everything goes perfectly. So it was just funny, the timing to see that. So
sometimes anyway, it's a God wink, right?
It is. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Melanie. I bet she does not even know this podcast exists, but sending love and prayers for everything to go smoothly, even if she never knows that I was.
You know what?
Cheers.
That's all that matters, right? Cheers. I'll drink to that.
Yes, which I am drinking just for my Bravo friends. Loverboy found it at the Kroger in Melissa, Texas, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
So what is this Loverboy?
Okay, so Loverboy
for the non-Bravo people here.
For the non-Bravo people. So there is a show, Summer House, and one of the people on Summer House created this hard tea company, and they do all sorts of flavors and everything. And so it's for Summer House people, and I love Summer House, and I love all of them. And he's like our age, so it's kind of like, hey, it's not the real. Well, now the Real Housewives are like our age too, some of them and younger. But it seemed like forever that they were older, but this is from like the younger crew, and most of them on the show are in fact younger than us. But he is one that is like at least 6 months older than us.
So I was going down a rabbit hole today of IMDb stuff and looked up Tom Hanks because it's like him and his wife today, the day that we're recording, May 1st, it was their 38th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
30, I don't know. It was something way up there. And I was like, how old is he? Because he was married before her. And then I looked at it and he's 68. And his son, Colin Hanks, who was in Orange County and all these other, like he's in, what is it, Life in Pieces, a couple other shows that I've watched.
Well, and he also was in The Amazing, based on a Shakespearean play, Get Over It. So you should watch that too. Oh, it's amazing. They do a Martin Short's in it too, and they do a musical version of A Midsummer's Night's Dream.
Oh, that's amazing.
As awful and wonderful as you can imagine.
I can. He's almost 50 though.
Because he's older than us. But that was from his first wife, but still.
And then I was like, wait.
The math is
how old are we?
Yeah,
I'm only in my 30s, right?
Oh my gosh.
I'm still not admitting that I just turned 40.
No, I'm not ready for that. I know I've got a couple of months, but still I'm like, no. That's like
The
we're like in our 40s. We're not just turning 40, we're like in our
in
40s.
our We are firmly planted.
In the 40s. Oh my
My
gosh.
book club that I cheat on you with, we met on Tuesday night at Neighbor Books, and there was someone new to the group, so everybody was going around and telling their name, and the guy that was new started by saying his name, and then he also said his age, and he was 20, and the next
Oh
person
wow.
went and said his name and that he was 21, and I was like, oh, I'm Leyna and I'm 43, and I suddenly felt very old.
And like I could be your mom.
Right? I
Like
was like,
what
I
the heck?
couldn't just be just one of your mom, I could be both of your moms.
I know.
This is what a weird thing. But it's actually kind of cool. I enjoy having interactions with people that are younger and older.
Yeah.
So a lot of my triathlon stuff were all people that were older than me, and you
Yeah.
learn so much from that generational experience. So
No, it's true.
I'm looking at it as a positive. They're going to keep me cool and hip because at
Of
one point
course they are.
we were talking about, speaking of literary lately, right? This is my literary lately. We had read the book Ultramarine, which was the French book that was translated by Deep Vellum. And there's a scene in the book that I was like, I'm just not quite sure on. Did the main character and this other character, did they hook up? And I was
Mhm.
like, is that even the vernacular now? Is that what you call it? do people still hook up? I don't
I
know.
know. I don't know
Clearly, I'm
either.
old. And I was like, I feel like I'm aging myself by saying this, but
Well, cuz like I also teach in high school, but that's the type of stuff that doesn't get explained to me, you
uh,
know? Like I remember when Netflix and chill was a thing and like my students were all saying it and kind of they were trying to gauge if I knew what it was. And so of course I go home and look it up. And so the next time I can say I'm like, no, 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 we're not gonna say that in here. And they're like, what? And it's kind of like last year with Giat, my one of my students kept saying it and I was like, what does that mean? And she wrote like the letters out on the board and she's like, get your act together. So then the next class, the first kid walks in and I yell, Giat. And like the kid's like, oh my gosh. And I kept yelling it. And then finally one of them was like, Miss Barber, do you know what that means? And
I was like, does it actually mean that?
I was like, get your act together. And they're like, that is not what it means. And it doesn't. And I can't remember exactly, but it's basically about having a nice big rear end. So yeah, I was yelling that at students as they walked in because I didn't know what it meant. And an honors student told me that it meant get your act together, but
What
it's
student wants
fine.
to explain that, though?
Right, right. But
Maybe
she
you shouldn't
totally,
be saying it if you don't want to explain it to your elders.
yeah. But I mean, it was funny. And I have her in Stuco this year. And it's funny. It's a funny story now. Like, she's like, I can't believe you yelled that out at students. And I'm like, I thought it meant get your act together. So, of course, I was going to yell it. I thought I was being cool.
I'm going to have to Google it now to find out what it actually means.
Yeah, because I don't remember. I don't remember. But yeah, I don't know. Like Kaylee one time used the term about people hooking up, and I'm like, what does that mean to you? And it
Right?
does like it's in her generation, it sounds like it's a makeout session. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, because yes and no. Like sometimes I feel like in our generation, it meant like as we got older, that meant
All the
more.
way. Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm like, when you say your friend hooked up with someone, are you saying what I think you're saying? Or, and so we
Yeah.
clarified that no, it was basically kissing. And I'm like, okay, can you
Terminology
just say
changes.
that? Can you just say that they kissed? Like, can we just call it that? That sounds so much more innocent.
Not hooked up.
No. Okay, so what else literary lately? Any books you
So I was trying to think
finished?
where I was at our last episode because I know we had talked about it, and I know I
Mhm.
finished. So I know I finished Ultramarine between
Mhm.
episodes. I believe I finished Anne of the Island between episodes. I think I had started reading it because
Yeah,
we had
you
talked
hadn't
about the
finished.
scary spiders at my work and how
Yes.
Anne of the Island was bringing me home and making me happy. But I did finish that. That one hit a little different. It felt like Anne was growing up. So this is
Mhm.
the third book in the series. She's still a shiny, happy, bubbly person, but some things are starting to happen. And I mean, not that things didn't happen in the first two books, but I feel like some things are happening now to her that are like
More mature.
a young person
Okay.
dies and there's some
Yeah.
Like there's just some things like that. And it was just like, man, this is like a little bit more hard hitting and it still has her positive spin on things and attitude, but I wonder where the books are going to go. It reminded me of Harry Potter, how they eventually got like darker and darker and darker as he got
Yes.
older. And I'm like, is
Yeah.
that the tone that it's going to take? I'm very curious to see where the next book goes. Because I
Is
feel like
this
I
the
know.
one? Well, I want to know. Well, now I can't ask because then this will give away. I need to look up because there's something, I don't know. What is the next one? You keep talking.
I don't remember what the next book is, but it really, this one, it hit different. I still really liked it. I still gave it 5 stars. I still think that this is a series that people should read because it does feel like comfort food. And hearing her talk about, going to college and experiencing life and wanting more for herself and not wanting to just be kind of like this path that she's set on. She doesn't want to have a traditional path. She wants to be
Hmm.
who she is and do what she wants, but also have she kind of wants it all, which is what a lot of people want
Okay, so
in
I
a
have a
way.
question. Did she have like, there was like a suitor, like she had a
There was a
suitor?
suitor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And
You're
then,
thinking of
but
the right book. Yep.
okay, that's what I remember most from that. But then by the end, it went where we wanted us to go.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Got it. That's what I thought. Because the next one, I believe the next one is one that was inserted later, and it was my favorite of all of them. And it's one that's the epistolary, like where it's her writing letters. This one, I will say, is less heavy. But then there are, like you said, as she becomes older, as she faces more adult things, there's
And
going
I
to
mean,
be realities.
she was a kid who faced adult things. She
Absolutely.
was an orphan. She lived with a family who made her take care of children.
Yeah.
She did all of these things. She was sent on a train to go stay with a new family. Like
Yeah.
a lot of stuff happened with her as a child, but she still had this sunny disposition and was still a child and seeing it through innocent eyes, I think. And
Yes.
now she's becoming a little bit more aware, I
Mm.
guess, which
No,
is
she
normal,
is.
right?
That is. That is.
Yeah.
But I
And
think
then
she holds on to her innocence better
mhm,
than a lot of people.
I had to remind myself, like, she's only supposed to be, what, like 20, 21 at the end of
Like
this?
so young.
Still a baby. So I have
Still
to
a
remember
baby.
that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I did finish Mockingjay. So I finally, it came up. I was like, okay, so I had said last week that I was going to read my Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man. And then Mockingjay came up in my library feed. And I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm reading because I want to read it before we talk about Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm glad I read it because I hadn't read it in 20 something years,
Yeah.
but it just is not a good book.
Is that the third one?
It's the third one.
Yeah, I don't like
And
it.
I was like, I could have done without this. I think that she had something going with the Hunger Games, and then she tried to make it about the rebellion, and it just didn't land. And there was lots of stuff that
Yeah.
happened that I think we'll talk more about as we talk about Sunrise
Oh,
on the Reaping,
definitely.
because there
Yes.
was so much overlay and things that happen in Sunrise on the Reaping that continue on into the Hunger
Yeah.
Games story.
No.
And then currently, I'm reading a book called Forget the Fairy Tale and Find Your Happiness by Deb Miller. This was an ARC that was sent to us. I have your copy, LJ. It's a memoir, and it is about a woman's journey through life, and she's comparing everything to Disney characters and the Princess Path. So
Okay.
she grew up in, I believe she's more of like a baby boomer. So in the
Okay.
70s, she's going to college, and then it was still like, okay, people are expected to go to college, but you're really only going to college to get your MRS degree,
Yep.
so that you
I
can find the
know.
man. And then by the time that you graduate college, you're going to get married and you're going to become a stay at home mom. And so that's what she calls it, the princess path. And the book is kind of exploring what happens after the happy ever after. So you get your man, then what happens? Because most
Yeah.
stories and Disney characters only go up so far, and then we don't hear anything else. And so I'm probably about 20% of the way through. I'm
Okay.
enjoying it so far. It's been a pleasant read. The other one I'm reading right now is The Wedding People, which is
Mm-hmm.
just hilarious. It's so it reminds me of, was it A Man Named Uwe or A Man Called Uwe
A
by
man
Frederick
called
Bachman.
Uva. Yeah, a man called Uva.
She's a depressed woman. She's ready to end things, And then she ends up at this hotel where there's a wedding party. And she ends up with this party of people, and hilarity is ensuing. And it is one of those, it starts off kind of like depressing, but it just like, even as she's depressed and contemplating
Yeah.
offing herself. I don't know what the correct terminology is for that.
Aliving herself, I think
Unaliving. That's the words that I was looking for. But she was talking about that, but just the way that she was going about doing it just had some lightheartedness to it. So it does touch on depression, someone unaliving themselves or thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it does so in such a funny way and humorous way and caring that you're just wrapped into the story. And I have laughed out loud so many times, and I texted our group to see if anybody else was reading it or had read it. And Emily says she's reading it and is laughing out loud too. And I know, LJ, you said that you have it on your to read
I
list
do.
that's coming up soon. So,
yes.
And that's currently where I am and what I've been doing literary lately, getting ready to moderate our event. I guess by the time
Woohoo!
this airs, we'll have
It will have
moderated
happened.
it.
Yeah.
We'll have done it. We're going to moderate an event for Claire Sanama, who was on our podcast 3 episodes ago.
She was
3.
episode 23. So right? I don't know.
Oh, girl, that's asking
I
me
think
to
she
remember
was
too much.
okay, I'm pretty sure episode 23. And so, yes, by the time you're watching or listening, we will have already done this and probably posted stuff on social media.
So if you aren't following us on Instagram, go do that now so that you can go back and look at our stuff. Again, it's More Than a Book Club Pod is all of our social media. You post on TikTok and
I do, yes.
Instagram,
Everywhere.
Facebook.
All the places.
LJ is the one behind all that. So she's posting. Sometimes I'll go in and comment on stuff, but if it's posting, it's LJ. So what have you been doing literary lately?
Well, I finished Anna Karenina.
Ooh.
That was my biggest thing.
I think you deserve like a medal for that.
Thank you. I think in
or a
the
shot of
last
vodka since it was
something.
Russian.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I don't have any vodka, but that's an idea. So I think in the last week of reading it, I read 400 pages.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like,
So
I am
that's
ready.
like a whole book right there.
Yeah. And so I finished it. And then I read a Stephen King novella, and I had never heard of this. So this is how I landed here. I allowed myself to reshelve some books. Like I reshelved Anne of the Island. I reshelved Schindler's List. Like I was like, I am not ready to do these. I'm gonna allow myself. Like I offer grace to everyone else. We're gonna offer it to myself here. But I was like, well, but I thought I was gonna read a book from the decade that I was born, and even better, the year I was born. And so I was really disappointed because that's Schindler's List, and I will read it eventually, but I was just not in the right mood. So I was like, let me see if there's any other Stephen Kings from the 80s that I haven't read. And I have never heard of this one, but it's called Cycle of the Werewolf. And it's a short story, or not a short story, it's a novella, but it's illustrated.
Oh,
and so
different.
It was different. It was very interesting. And so I was like, well, let me just see. And I was able to get it from the Plano Libby app. Never everything I go for on there is a hold. It could be like the randomest book from like the 90s.
Years ago.
Yes, that no one cares
the 90s
about.
Was 30 years ago.
Yeah, it was. It was. But yeah, I can put in like the randomest, most obscure book and it will be like 6-month wait. And I'm like, why? So, but it was available immediately. So I got that and read that. So that was one that, I got to count that. So I don't know if this week or next week we want to talk about like how we're doing on our challenge. Maybe next week because
next week because I forgot to print it off and
it's all
update
good.
mine.
So I've updated mine.
Okay.
And that took care of a box. And then I started Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. She is an author that I love.
Like her books. Yeah.
I love her books. And this is an arc. I actually went and requested one from NetGalley. And
I've never done that.
I know, like I've done it one other time. I got a Riley Sager a few years ago. And so I started that. I'm about 40% in and I'm really enjoying it. And that, like we said, I'm planning to read The Wedding People soon because both of you are loving it and I have it. So I'm like, I should get on this. But
it's definitely funny.
But yeah, before we jump in though to our episode, I have to point out something really cool. So this is our 25th episode. and we are discussing a book that is about the second quarter quell.
Yes.
So 50. So I was like, that's cool. 25, 50. I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep.
I thought that was cool. It would have been
I
better
do
if it
like
was
it.
like, it would have been better if it was
The
first
first
quarter quell.
one, but
Yeah.
there's not a book about the first quarter quell yet.
There's not. There's not.
So I did go. Is that all of your literary lately
That's
happening?
all of my literary lately happened.
You
Well, I
you
guess I could
only
tell this
finished a
story.
700-page book.
Okay, I can share this story because I don't think I said it in our, but I posted on Instagram, so maybe you saw it on my is on my personal though. So last night went to WinStar with my boyfriend, and he won $1,600 while I was reading.
Dang.
So it was really good. So I guess that counts because I
That's a
was
good
reading.
night. Yeah.
It was a good night, and as soon
Yeah.
as he won, he's like, "Let's go home." I was
Yeah,
like,
right?
"Sounds
That's when you cash
sounds
out.
great." That's when you got it. So yeah, that's the end of my literary lately for this week.
That's fun. So should we switch over to talking about Sunrise on the Reaping?
I guess we should.
Guess we should. And this book came out, it was March, right?
I think so.
So it's still relatively new. So if you
Yes.
haven't listened to it, or you haven't listened to it, you could
Well,
have
you could
listened to
listen.
it or
Yeah,
read it, either one. I count them both as reading. But
I do too.
if you haven't read it yet, then we will be talking about some spoilers. I thought this was a good book,
I
and
did
I
not.
don't think that you did. Like, we had a difference of opinions here. So I'm curious to, like, first impressions. What's your first impression of this book?
Okay, so you're gonna laugh at this. I kept forgetting that the narrator, like the first person, was a boy. So that was my first issue because, like, whenever they're in a thing and he's talking about that there are two girls and a boy, like talking, and I'm like, where's the other boy? And why do we have an extra girl? Because I kept thinking he was a girl. That was
So,
my
do you
first
think that
problem.
his voice was just too passive? Like, what makes you think it
Yeah,
was
he
a
was
girl?
not.
Or were you just used to reading Hunger Games from a female's
Well,
perspective?
and I don't know, but his like interior dialogue, it just did not, I don't think it flowed as well. And and I agree, like what you said, he seemed too passive compared to the Haymitch. And I realize we know the Haymitch that's much older.
But we're we're
I
building that.
know.
So also, Reaping Day happens on his 16th birthday. So he literally just turned 16.
Yeah,
I have a 16-and-a-half-year-old
that is
that
true.
isn't, I won't say he's not mature. He's mature, but
No, but he's
he's
still a
not,
16 year
he's still
old.
a
He's not an
16-year-old.
adult.
And I would say more on, not immature side. I don't even know how to describe it, but I don't see
Hang
him
on.
as being a man.
Innocent. Innocent.
Innocent. Maybe that's it. And I feel like Haymitch, that was the vibe I got from him.
I mean, that's true. But for whatever reason, maybe it was because Katniss was a girl. But the whole time I would forget, at least in the first half, that this was a guy. And I don't know. I did not like how he talked about his girlfriend. That
So
drove me crazy.
I will admit, Lenore Dove, like, I'm so over it.
The whole time I was like, she goes by both, I guess. So I, of all people, should appreciate a double name. But
Yes.
I felt like it was bad.
I went down, talk about rabbit holes. There's wiki fandom pages for the Hunger
Okay.
Games. And so
Yeah.
I went all through this, and I haven't ever read the Ballad of
I
Songbirds and
haven't.
Snakes, but
I haven't.
apparently that is Snow as like an 18-year-old, and one of the girls who's from District 12, he's her mentor, because at the first couple of reapings, they didn't have any victors to be the mentor. So they had young
Right.
academy people be the mentors. And so he's the mentor. And the person who's from District 12 is one of Lenora Dove's relatives, like long lost relatives or whatever.
Okay.
Which I have to say, if there's something that bothered me about this book, it's like, how old are these people supposed to be? So
Right.
President Snow was 18 at, I think that covered like the 10th Hunger Games or the 11th, one or the other.
Okay.
And then now we're at the 75th.
No, this is the 50th.
Sorry, but there have been 75.
Right.
And President Snow is still alive. So
right.
How old is President Snow supposed to be? 93?
I mean, I don't know.
But I mean,
don't
if the
know.
math is mathing, then he should be in his 90s. A
Yeah.
lot of these characters should be in their 90s.
Right. Like with this, I was like, how old is he? But then he's having this sickness that I'm like, that suggests that he's older. And even with that, like with what it sounded like his sickness was, it did not seem to make sense that he would make it another 25 years. But we know he does.
That was my hang up with this book. I was like, okay, so these characters are several of the characters that were introduced in this book are later introduced in Catching Fire. So the second book in the series, they're introduced in that. And it's like, okay, they were 18 when they were in the Hunger Games, and now they're here in this second quarter quell. I want to call it Kell, but it's not. It's Quell. Quarter quell. The second quarter quell, and then they're in the third quarter quell as well. I just had so many questions about the ages, and I know that they had like older people there, but to be able to do some of the things that they did just doesn't sit well.
I know, and now I'm just out of curiosity. I'm looking up how, I mean, I realize the actors are actors, but still. Okay. Philip Seymour Hoffman, may he rest in peace, played Plutarch Heavensbee, right? And so the actor, was born in 67, and I'm like, that is not a nice round number. And this movie would have been filmed in
early 2000s,
like,
right?
2000, like 11 or 12, because it came out in 2013. So I'm like, okay, so how old is that?
So 70 to 2010 is 40. So he would have been about 50, maybe.
Okay. Well, it's right now like 42 or 43. So he would not have
our age.
So, but he wouldn't have been he would have been a teenager at the second quarter quell.
Yeah.
So maybe we say 50, but still he would, I mean, I guess maybe 25 is more realistic if we're thinking. But yeah, it's like, okay. And then let me find Beatty. Why don't they have these people in my order of importance where I need to find
I wrote
them?
this down here.
Okay, go ahead.
Beatty won the 34th Hunger Games.
Okay.
And then his son ends up being in the 50th Hunger Games, which is the one that Haymitch is in. So his son Ampert is in the Hunger Games.
No.
R.I.P. Ampert.
Yeah,
I loved him.
He was the Rue character almost, except he had more skills.
Yes. If Beatty was in the 34th Hunger Games, say he was 16, then so this is way too much math. I need a calculator. 50 minus 34. That was 16 years. So he would have been 32 when his son went to the 50th Hunger Games. Plus 25.
It's not bad.
Maybe that's not bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It just doesn't seem right. President Snow definitely didn't seem right.
No, not at all. So yeah, I agree. The age thing and trying to figure, and then it's like, I don't want to do the math to figure out if she spent the time to do the math, which probably we should trust her as the author that she did. And if not her, the publisher or someone who read it.
Yes.
Someone
her editors. Has done the math, I'm sure. And I'm sure that, they're in this advanced technological environment. So maybe people are living longer if they have the proper medical treatments. I mean,
and they don't go die in the Hunger Games.
Right? Like if you're in the Capitol, maybe you can live to be 160. Maybe that's not unheard of.
So, I mean, maybe. Well, you know what else? Something else that I found very interesting in this, and I don't know if you noticed this. Did it not seem like it was way lower budget than when Katniss went in? Like they are talking about like their accommodations were not good. They took them in chains, like they were chained, whereas that did not happen with Katniss and Peeta. It was very interesting to me. And then they're having to share like this bunk bed room.
Yes. And so that was
locked in.
One of the things, and they talk about, so when I went down the Wikipedia, the wiki page, they were, I guess, the Songbirds and Ballad. It's talking about they literally transported them in freight cars, and then whenever they got there, they didn't have a place for them, so they stayed at the zoo and animal cages.
Oh my gosh.
So
this is an evolution.
Haymitch had like a little bit of an upper hand than the 10th Hunger Games.
Dang.
And then Katniss had it really good because, I mean, Haymitch, they got food, but it wasn't anything at all like what Katniss and Peeta experienced, where they were just like, oh, you're about to die. So, kind of like, what was that book? The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. Okay. So it's a short, I think it's a novella technically, but it was really good. And people are, you win the lottery and you're put to death. That's what you win. But you get to have kind of like all your heart's desires for 24 hours before you die.
Dang.
Basically. So that's what I remember from the book. I read it a long time ago.
Okay.
But that's what it felt like whenever I was reading Hunger Games, was like, oh, they're going to give them everything that they want, knowing that they're going to die probably. And then what kind of happens after the Hunger Games from previous
Right.
books, you know, they don't have good lives. But anyway, back to this book. I agree with your takes on those. I will say that there were parts of it that I didn't like. I did not like it as much as I liked Hunger Games, the original, or Catching Fire. I did like it more than Mockingjay. So I gave this one 4 stars. Sunrise and the Reaping, 4 stars. Mockingjay, I gave 3.
Catching Fire is my favorite.
Yes, Catching Fire was really good. I thought that they did some good things with some of the characters in this book in Sunrise on the Reaping. I thought that this gave Haymitch a good, solid backstory as to why he is the way he is. I think it made him more of a character more than just he's a drunk.
Well, yeah. I mean, I figured there had to be. I mean, he needed a backstory to explain that rather than just being a drunk. Keep going.
I also think that it shows Snow's depravity. Like, we already knew he did some bad things, but this just like locked it in that he's a horrible person. And it makes me want to go read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes now, because I want to know what he was like. Because part of that is a love story with him and a girl from District 12. Before he was president, before he was anyone famous, really, he was willing to be in a relationship with someone from District 12. He wasn't always a bad person. How did he get there?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's his villain
origin story.
And so I want to go read that because he does some pretty awful things. And you were talking about him being sick. It's because he poisons people, but then he'll take some of the poison too and then take antidotes. But some of the antidotes don't always work very well. So that's why he smells like blood. It's because he has mouth sores that bleed all the time.
Interesting.
I can't remember if that was in Mockingjay or if that was on Sunrise and the Reaping, but I know that he does poison the parade guy in this book because Haymitch and Plutarch. We also meet Plutarch as a young man.
Yes.
And I was trying to remember because I had read the first 2 Hunger Games books and then Sunrise on the Reaping and then Mockingjay, and trying to remember if Haymitch and Plutarch had much of a relationship.
Well, and they didn't until the 3rd book, because it's at the end of the second
one
that we realize they're in it together. Because otherwise, you would not think that Plutarch, he was playing the long game.
From this book, you find out that Plutarch has been a rebel for 25 years and hasn't gotten caught.
Yeah.
But he's also moved up the ranks and become head game maker, like all these different things that I don't know.
Okay, well, are you ready for me to tear this book down and convince you? Because I have why this book is not good. Okay. And you're not going to like what I say, but here it is. So this book, if this is what really happened, where all these same people that are in Catching Fire doing essentially the same thing, and Snow allowed them all together again in a Hunger Games, where he knew that like Beatty had already tried, he had tried to take it down in his own. He tried to get his son to, he knew Haymitch was part of it. He let all of those people end up back in the Hunger Games together, including, I forgot her name, one of the Wirus, yes. Then that means he's stupid, and that makes him less of a villain. And so there's no way that the Snow that we know would ever allow them in a situation like that ever again. Now, I get it. You might argue, well, he's putting them there so they all die.
I'm laughing because I'm like, maybe it's not President Snow. Maybe it's Snow instead of like Lulu.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe it's just an impersonation.
I mean, maybe. But still, like, that's the whole thing is, like, he's not dumb. That's what makes him such a great villain is he is and like
conniving.
This even like
and
yes,
he
and
is
that he
a
seems
planner.
to be. It's like that's where I'm like Plutarch doing this stuff right under Snow's nose also didn't make sense because he is so young. Like I get it. I mean, him like maybe giving a small little thing to Haymitch to like let him know he's on that side, possibly, but the amount he did, like talking about stuff in this mansion that yes, I know was his, but his family's, but it also is where Snow always was around. So like it just didn't make sense. And especially when we think about, we know, like they're probably, I would imagine there would be recording devices around because we already know that they made this girl, like they took a girl and made her be the replacement, like you said. And like clearly, like they were smart not to say anything around her because obviously I think that she also like had some sort of recording capability
She
where
did,
they
like,
could.
that's what they decided
Yeah.
anyway.
And so to me, I'm like, Snow is not this stupid. Snow would not allow this. He would not allow, he would be so suspicious of Plutarch and all this, like all these things. So I'm like,
Okay, you're pointing out some pretty big plot holes for me.
yes.
I don't know if I can dismiss that. I have to agree with you.
And so here's the thing, like I knew because Emily finished it before me and she was like, I don't know, like I want you to finish it and see if you see the same thing I see. And I was like, they're redoing Catching Fire, but not as well. And
It
I'm
did
like, and
feel a
Catching,
lot like that.
and I think I would not have noticed it as much, except that Catching Fire is my favorite of the three books, and it's my favorite of the movies. So like I've I've only read the books, I think maybe two times or three times total, but I've seen and the movies, I've watched the first two movies countless times. I've only watched the other two for because they divided up the third book like once, so maybe twice. And so this is the one that I know, and I also love all the actors in it. Like I love that Jenna something, the one that was in Stepmom.
Oh,
I
um,
love her. I love her character. And then the guy that was in Me Before You that carried Mags, Mags, the old lady.
that
Like
plays
I
Finnick.
Yeah, I loved all of them, and I liked the actress that played Wyrus, and like, I don't know, I just love that one. So I just know it so well. So then all of these things where I'm like, you're doing a knockoff version. Like you already wrote this story. Why are you writing it again? I don't know.
I can tell you why, probably.
Okay, tell me why. Tell
I think
me why.
I think a lot of it comes down to money. And
Ugh,
you have this huge fandom that wants more. And has Suzanne Collins written anything other than these books?
I have no idea. You keep talking, and I'm
I
gonna look
did
that
listen
up.
to after Mockingjay, it came out with like she had her here's an author's note, and she was talking about kind of where she got the idea for Hunger Games was she was clicking through the news and it was all this reality TV stuff juxtaposed next to actual war footage of teenagers in war. Like there were
Okay.
teen warriors. And she was like, okay, so these are two different realities where these people are putting on their makeup and they're getting all glamorous and just totally ignoring the war that's happening right there. People fighting for their lives, fighting for survival, and they don't really think twice about it. And so she was kind of thinking about that. And then she said that she had been in the movie industry. And I can't remember what she said that she had done. If she was a writer for the movie industry, if she was a producer, like what she did. But she was talking about she had seen those people in action where it's all about appearances and make
Mm-hmm.
this look camera ready and oh you're crying, okay, let's go back and redo that again so that we can get the real emotion, and kind of being unable to see their humanness because they wanted to capture the moment. So that was something that I thought was, I was like, okay, I really get that from her perspective. I can see where this franchise clearly made her a lot of money. I mean,
Oh yeah.
this was a huge franchise in the early 2000s. And the last couple of years, she wrote, the Ballad of the Songbirds. That was a hit. There was a movie with that one. And now they're already casting the movie for this. So there's a lot of money to be made.
There is, and she has another series, by the way,
Oh, does
that
she?
yes, called Gregor the Overlander series, and apparently they're rated very highly. It sounds like they might be like middle grade,
Okay.
but yeah, they all have like really high ratings. So, like all one of them looks like it's exactly 4 stars, like I'm just scrolling through, and the rest are like over 4 stars. But
No,
yeah, no, I get
maybe.
it. There's so much money and there's probably pressure too because the publishers want to make money, but it's like, but you've had time, you could make it a little bit more creative. As much as like I did not love this, I don't have as strong of feelings towards this as I did say for Allegiant, which I will never forgive Veronica Roth for. She destroyed a trilogy that had so much potential. And I feel like, in a sense, Suzanne Collins also did that with The Hunger Games. However, I had already been destroyed by Divergent, that when Mockingjay came around, it did not destroy me as much, but I was like, what the heck? I remember just being like, what? What is wrong
It
with you?
felt
Why
like
is
a
this stuff
different
happening?
book,
Yes.
Mockingjay. And
Yes.
I am, this, I love when books overlap, when characters and you get to see them in different stages
Mm-hmm.
of their life, all of that. I love that. This felt like a little bit too much of that. Like she was
Yes.
trying to put characters in that maybe didn't necessarily need to belong there, but so that she
Mm-hmm.
could just be like, oh, here's them younger. Here's this person
Yes.
younger, which weird wiki fandom thing. The character in Mockingjay, Tigress,
Yes.
who has a very small role, but she helps hide them before they go to Snow's house or whatever. But she looks like a tiger. Like she has the facial implants and everything. That is apparently President Snow's cousin, who he grew up
Oh,
with, and she is in Songbird of the Ballads and Snakes.
I think
Like
that you are saying that name of that book so many different ways. I have no idea what it actually is because
Ballad
we've
of
got,
Songbirds and Snakes. I've never read it, so
I don't
the
know,
other
but
book, the prequel.
that was awesome. You're like Songbird of the Ballads and Snakes. That's my favorite one. Hang on, hang on. I'm gonna look. I just had all of her books pulled
It
up
has a
too.
lot of words.
It does. It's too many
Because
words.
I
Okay.
feel like there's even a
Okay.
name before that, like Hunger Games, the Ballad of.
Okay. So the book itself
Mhm.
is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Okay.
Okay.
So if people are listening and it's not daytime, or maybe, as long as I mean, whatever, you do you. Every time Leyna says it wrong,
Take a drink.
take a shot. Take a shot. Take a sip of
Oh,
your drink.
a
It doesn't
sip.
have to be alcoholic. It could be coffee. It could be Diet
There you go.
Coke.
It can be
It could
water.
be wine.
If
It
you're
could
if you're
be
on your
vodka.
walk.
It could be water. Like, take a sip.
Yep.
Because that one,
We're
though,
gonna
I
keep
was
you
like,
hydrated.
we're going to keep you hydrated. That one was my favorite, though, when you're like, the songbird of ballads and snakes. I mean,
it's
maybe it
it's really it's
is.
the Jabberjays and the
It is
Mockingjays just singing songs.
to snakes.
I love it.
It's so funny. I love
That's
it too.
hilarious. So now that you've said that, I probably won't say it ever again.
No, please keep saying it because it's made because I didn't know the name either, but I knew it was definitely not Songbird of Ballads and Snakes. That's the only one that was like, that can't be right.
That can't be right.
But you saw, I had to look it up. I didn't know. There's a reason I didn't call it anything because I didn't even know. I know it has a green cover.
Yeah. And I know it
I
came out a
mean,
couple years ago. I didn't know they made a movie out of it, but then whenever I was in this wiki fandom page, I was like, oh, there's movie characters and
okay, that one came out in 2020. She's had 5 years. She's had plenty of time to make a more creative story than this. And I get it. I agree. It felt like she was trying to bring in characters that we already knew so we could be like, hey, here they are. And that is fun. Like, of course, we want to see characters that we like. But I mean, that's where she could have had potential where, yes, maybe they're mentioned here and there, or maybe if there's one that it like really logically makes sense. But then the others, I would love to read the Hunger Games books of each of the ones that are in Catching Fire in there.
oh, so like all of their games.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be that they were rebelling or anything. I just would like to see, I feel like there's potential to
So
see their stories. It might get redundant, but
that was
I
a
don't
thing
know.
that I had that a little bit of a problem with because we knew that Haymitch was going to win this. And I think that
Right.
even they talk about it at one point that Haymitch wins by throwing an axe and it comes back, it hits the boundary and it comes back and kills the last person. So we knew
Yes.
that going in, but Haymitch doesn't really kill anyone.
No,
Does
I
he?
think he
He
kills
kills maybe
like
one
one
person.
person, and then he accidentally does not prevent the death of Lulu.
He didn't mean for Lulu to die.
No, no, he didn't mean for her to die. I think he felt guilty for some of it, like that he could have protected her better.
I
But
think
that's because she was like a little child
yes.
that was spying on them.
Well, she was like a little child and she didn't have. So, okay, back it up just a little bit. We have four characters that start out the story because it's
Yes.
the second quarter quell or Kel, if you're me. If you want to take a shot when I say Kel instead of
Hey,
quell, go for it.
mer mercantile.
Mercantile, always and forever. But so the second quarter quell, they have twice as many people that are going to be reaped. So there's 2 boys, 2 girls from each district that are going to be chosen. The 4 tributes from the 12th district are Llewellyn McCoy, Maisie Donner, Wyatt Callow, and Woodbine Chance. And if you notice, I didn't say Haymitch Abernathy. Haymitch, he was not originally in the Hunger Games.
So again, copying
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Not
I
original.
can see that.
Not original.
So Luella gets called, Maisie gets called, Wyatt gets called, and Woodbine gets called. And Woodbine's like, peace out, I'm not doing this. And he runs away, and then the peacekeepers shoot him and he dies. And they're trying to drag his body away, I think, to destroy it because they're trying to clean stuff up. And his mom comes over and tries to grab him. And then Lenore Dove, the dove, she goes over and tries to help the mom and keep the peacekeepers away. And then, of course, love struck Haymitch has to go over and help his girl out. And when he does this, they say that he's going in place of Woodbine. That seals his fate, and he becomes the fourth member of this little quartet. And like LJ said, it is not anything like the Hunger Games whenever Katniss is there. Everything is very rushed. Like, because this murder happened, they're trying to just get out of there. They just don't want anything else. They don't even get to say goodbye to their families. Like, and Effie Trinket is not there. And for the first time, I was like, I miss Effie Trinket and I like her.
Yeah, of
Because the
course.
other lady who was there, Drusilla,
Yeah,
which I felt like that was the name of one of the stepsisters in Cinderella.
it was. It
Okay.
was.
I was
You're
like, am
not
I
wrong.
making that up? But yeah, so she was just a horrible person. And she was just like, all right, let's go. And so Haymitch does not get to say goodbye to his mom and his little brother, who he has been helping support since his father died. He just
Yeah.
is forced onto the train. He doesn't get to say goodbye to his girlfriend. They tell him that his girlfriend's going to die originally, right? Isn't that what happens? I
I
can't
don't
remember if they're
remember.
just going to arrest her or if they're going to kill her or what. But she ends up on a hill and she gets to see him leave, and she's crying, and the Capitol doesn't get to watch it or video record it or whatever. Anyway, when they get to the Capitol, it's not the same reception as Katniss and Peeta see. District 12 has only had one victor before, and that person is dead, but she was from the Ballad of Snakes and Songbirds. So
Good job.
that's
That
where
sounds
that is. I said it wrong on purpose that time.
okay, because I was like, which one is first? Good job.
They don't have any victors, so they have to like bring in alternate victors to be their mentors. So they get Wirus and Mags, who we
Yes.
meet in the third quarter quell, because Mags is who Finnick carries, and
Mhm.
Wirus is
Finnick,
part.
that was his name. I
Yeah,
couldn't remember it.
and Wirus is part of Nuts and Volts. I think that was interesting because Wirus won because she outsmarted everybody else.
And I love that. Like, that was such an interesting thing to find out.
Yes,
Like,
so
we
she
didn't need to see that Hunger Games, but to hear
Mhm.
it explained like that was like, dang, girl.
She just outsmarted everybody. And then you also hear about, because Beatty is there, and Beatty is a past victor. So he's there as a mentor. And his son has been selected as a tribute, as a punishment, which felt weird. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess Snow wants Beatty to watch his son die, is basically what it boils down to. So Beatty
Yes.
is there. You hear about his Hunger Games, but he also won because of his creativity and ingenuity and cleverness, basically. It wasn't about murdering people, which is what the Capitol seems to want, right? They want these
Mm-hmm.
savage deaths. And so Wirus, I can't remember how Mags won hers. I don't remember. Don't remember how Finnick won his, but Peeta and
I don't know that
Katniss
we know as many details. Like, we might
for
know,
those.
like it might have been one mentioned in passing.
Yeah. I thought that was a little bit interesting that they kind of outsmarted them. And then Beatty came up with this plan with his son, Ampert, that they were going to get all of the non careers together to basically have like a super alliance in order to beat the careers. And then once the
Yeah.
careers were dead, then they were going to have a meeting, I guess, which
Mm-hmm.
sounded really weird to me. I was like, so you're
I
going to have a
know.
meeting to discuss
Who's gonna
how
die?
who's going to die, who's going to survive, how are we going to kill each other. That part felt a little less planned. And I know that they had this ultimate plan of like smuggling in things and necklaces and creating a bomb and exposing, like there was like this ultimate plan where
Yeah.
Haymitch was going to be this big rebel. I don't know. That seemed a little bit far fetched.
Yeah.
It seemed a little bit confusing, like she hadn't planned it out all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't quite work how she wanted it.
No. Well,
Like
and then
the
he like
characters, it
just
didn't work.
take
Yeah.
he just takes off.
Yeah.
It's like it did not, I don't know. That was a mess for me too. And I'm gonna tell you, when Luella dies, I thought they're gonna punish him by bringing in Lenore
Lenore
Dove.
Dove. Yeah.
That's what I thought. And
That would have been
honestly,
better.
I think that would have been better because they would not have been able to do what Peeta and Katniss did. They would not. And so it would have at some point, like I mean, don't get me wrong, if it were between her and Haymitch, Haymitch would let her kill him, I'm pretty sure. But I feel like there was potential there to have like maybe right at the end, right before he like, he throws the axe and it kills the other guy, like maybe that guy kills Lenore.
The way that the person that he ends up killing with the
Yeah.
axe, she deserved to die because of
Oh
what
yeah.
she did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm
But
gonna have
still.
sad. That did make me tear up though.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever the little Welly character with the little bike bell, yeah,
I know. That was
and it's just a
awful.
gruesome death. And
It was.
anyway, so Wyrus and Mags are their mentors, and no one, like I said, only one person has ever from District 12 won, and this is like the 50th year, so 49 years of losing. So they are pretty sure that they're not going to win. And so Wyrus gives the advice of first avoid the slaughter, get weapons, look for water, find food and to sleep, fire and friends can keep. And I was like, okay, I like her little like rhyme that she has. And then that goes with her character later on, whenever she's like, tick tock goes the clock. Like she's
Got
thinking in rhymes and songs.
Well, she doesn't say clock. She just says tick tock,
okay.
tick tock.
So I keep
couldn't
getting that.
figure that out, that it was a clock until that was one of the
That's
big
right.
reveals was when
So
they figured it
a
out.
song from Doctor Who. Tick tock goes the clock, even for the doctor. So I keep getting those mixed up with TikTok and that.
Okay.
Anyway, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you probably know what I'm talking about. And then Mags had a different approach. Rather than giving advice for like how to stay alive, she was like, okay, let's be real about this. What are your desires? What do you not want to happen, and what do you want to happen? And so it was like, okay, how do you want to die, basically? And I was like, oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
So then it also made me think, we know that Haymitch wins. How many times is he having to give this advice to people
over the years?
I mean, he did this for 25 years afterwards, right? So he's having to talk to people that he knows are not going to live. And that has to just weigh on your soul.
Oh, absolutely.
Going into this. So that really got to me. Llewellyn, was that her actual name? Luella. She dies in just like a weird way.
I know that. Okay, you know what this made me think of? I don't know. I don't remember which old movie, but I saw like a making the movie or something thing a long time ago, like on Turner Classic Movies. And it's one where there were chariot races and someone fell off and actually died during the filming. And so this made me think of that, which I was like, this is so weird. And she like hit her head just right. I mean, I guess it was different.
So she died even before the Hunger Games, and then they replaced her with
a child that kind of looked like her a little bit.
I think she'd had surgery to make her look like her.
And then she's like, they had scrambled her brain, and
it was just really sad. And they end up thinking that she's like from, I think, District 3 based on the type of bread that she likes and that she knows certain songs or something.
Yeah, they were figuring out based on that stuff. And that was really sad because you've got this person that's replacing this other person, and like clearly it's to get back at someone, or she's being punished for sins of her parents or something. They put someone who is essentially a special needs child in the Hunger Games.
That's what it
felt like. And it's just like, that's what it felt like. And it was not a good look. I did not like that. So.
And then you had Maisie Donner, who is, I guess, Katniss's mom's best friend growing up. So Astrid.
Is that who that is?
Yeah. So Astrid is Maisie's best friend, and Astrid is Katniss's mom.
God, I did not know that.
Maisie's twin sister, I don't remember what her name is, but she gets married to the town mayor, and then they have the daughter who ends up giving Katniss the Mockingjay pen.
Okay.
And the Mockingjay pen was Maisie's pen.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that all connected back.
Had the pen, yeah.
And then I read this on the wiki page. I did not remember this, but she had a canary, I guess. And then she ended up being killed by birds.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So I was
like that.
That was gruesome.
Yes.
And then I guess after Maisie died, her parents gave Astrid her canary. So that connects Katniss to Maisie a little bit more too.
I would have never remembered that.
Yeah.
I would not at all.
The wiki page that had that.
That sounds like really, I mean, like that's the type of rabbit hole I like. So,
Yes, it was a fun rabbit hole to go down, and like literally I spent hours on it today. It's just like, oh my gosh, what's this?
oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I'm like, what else do we have to talk about here? One thing that I thought was really fun was Haymitch's family. His
Yeah.
mom's name is Willa May, and that's
Uh-huh.
my stepmom's name.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yep.
that's
I was
cool.
like, how funny. Hers is like two separate names, not one together, but
But still,
yeah, so that was kind of fun. Lenore Dove, that whole thing.
I did not read Quoth the Raven. No, I
So
did not read.
so I thought Emily's take on that was hilarious because we were joking because they go over Lenore Dove gets her name from the Raven. And I used to like the Raven poem. I do not like the Raven poem anymore. Like that is dead to me. I don't know if I will ever be able to read that again without thinking of this book and how many times they spoke certain parts of it and then they read the whole poem at one point. And
Yeah,
Emily was
no.
like, it felt like she had a word count that she had to hit. And she's like, wait, I know what I can do. I'll just read this whole poem in here and that'll hit my
Mm-hmm.
word count. And it did feel
Yep.
like that a little bit. It felt like
It
that.
it really did. It really did. And
It did not add to the story at all.
no. And if you are new to the podcast, originally we were going to be a foursome, and Emily is one of our good friends and Allie, and they are both on, I don't know what number episode, but they're on a
Like the
while ago.
third.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So they're on early on, and they'll make appearances in the future, they promise. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so if we ever mention them and you're new and you're like, who is this Emily or this Allie that they are mentioning? They are our other two book besties that we are gonna, by the time this publishes, the day before, we will have met for book club and gone to talk about this book again.
Because this was our April book,
It was.
but
It's May
our
though.
podcast month got kind of busy. And then also book
Yes,
club month got kind of busy. So
it
everything got
did.
pushed.
Yeah.
That's just April apparently.
And I think we're also pushing our May book club meetup because Emily is going on a vacation with her family. So
Yeah.
she will not be here. But we don't know when we'll discuss our book for May. But just so y'all know, in case you're wondering, it is
Emma.
Emma. For a second, I was
I
like,
feel
wait,
like
which one?
Oprah. I feel like Oprah whenever I say that. Emma.
Emma by Jane Austen. So it's a good one. If you haven't ever read it, it's really good. So I'm excited to
I
reread
haven't
it.
read it. I think it's going to be good. I
I think you'll like
I
it.
think you've convinced me a little bit that maybe I don't like this book. I enjoyed the book. I will say that.
That's
Maybe
fair.
I would round it down to like 3.5 stars.
So this reminds me of like what book did was it Onyx Storm that you're like maybe you should take your rating down? Was it that one or was it
No,
something else?
it was the
Oh no, the Dream Girl drama.
yeah, I'm like the Tessa Bailey book that I was like,
Yes.
maybe you should read it down. Because I think you
I
rated
think
it
that
like 4 or 5 stars, but you were like, it really wasn't good. And I'm like, why did you rate it so high?
it's true. It's true. Yeah, that's right. It was that one. Because Onyx Storm I did give 5 stars too. I don't know. I don't and I didn't love it either.
So I think that there's something to be said about a good series. And
Yes.
sometimes the series will just carry the book because it's part of its history. It's part of the world that they're creating. So if you
Yes.
don't have that as part of it, you're missing some of that development, whether it's the world development, the character development, you
Yeah.
know, who knows where this is going to go. Maybe something is going to come from this. I don't know. I remember
Yeah.
when the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out, I did not want to read that. I was like, I
I
feel like
didn't
that's a
either.
money grab at that point because it was like
Me
20 years
too.
later. Um, and I don't know what made me want to read this. Maybe it was just because it was Haymitch's story.
Haymitch. I think it was because it was Haymitch.
I did like some of the backstory that they provided. I mean, Snow, if y'all have read it, you know he does end up killing Haymitch's family. Like Haymitch, they send him back home, and then the day he comes back home, he gets off the train, and his house has just been set on fire, and his mom and brother are burned alive. So
Mm-hmm.
that's his homecoming. It's not very pleasant. It makes me a little bit surprised that President Snow didn't immediately kill Katniss's family
Right. Like that
because
didn't.
that would have been a direct parallel.
Yes. So good. I mean, I guess that's good that she did that differently, but
And maybe that was
still, I
because
don't
PETA was
know.
there, but
Yeah, I don't know.
the whole thing, that's what made me think that Snow was just a really awful person, because
Yeah, he is.
he doesn't care. He took Lulu away from her real family and was putting her in and knowing that she was going to be killed. She had
Well,
no
and
defenses.
well, and I think so if we're talking about like why he didn't do that to Katniss's family versus Haymitch's. Okay, so kind of like going back to some of the things like the internal dialogue and stuff like that, where I was saying he felt young and, passive, whereas Katniss was never that passive character,
She
even when
was
she was
not.
quiet. And he knew that. Like, I think he realized that if he pushed her too hard, she was going, I mean, she did end up becoming the face of the revolution, but he knew that he needed to keep her in his control and that scaring her was not going to be enough. Because, yeah, I think that Haymitch, like we said, he
More
didn't kill
easily
people. I
controlled.
mean, not that she wanted to kill people at all, but she overall was a stronger personality from the get-go.
So it was interesting reading the wiki pages. I guess the Lenore Dove was related to the person who won the first Hunger
Oh,
Games, or not first, but the 10th, the first tribute from District 12.
gotcha.
And then they did some genealogy, and I guess Katniss's dad was related to that side of that group, the Coventry. No, I can't remember what it was called. It had a name. I want to say
Interesting.
Coventry, but I don't know for sure. But that part of the song
Yeah,
writers, the ballad writers,
that's cool.
he was related. So they were related somehow. And so I wonder
Okay.
if Snow saw some of his former girlfriend
Yeah,
in Katniss.
and it's very possible.
We'll never know what Snow thought.
I guess not. We can go
But
read the Snakes of Songbirds and Ballads.
I do want to read it now, even though I think that I'll be disappointed. I don't think that I'll have that
Yeah.
high up on my reading list, but
I mean, I bought it when it came out. I think I have the ebook. So, I mean, it's there. I don't know. I'm not really eager to read it. I'm like, because we're all caught up now on, the books that we kind of had to read by a certain time. I mean, I know obviously we're recording on May 1st, so we do have a book club book by the end. But I'm like, okay, I'm reading for fun. Like I'm being able to be a mood reader, and I really want to I've finished my thriller, and then I want to read The Wedding People, which I actually might start that tonight just to
it is so good. I think you
like, it
won't regret
sounds
it.
so fun. Like, I wanna go hop on that. So I might
Yeah.
just let myself do that and read both of them. I do read multiple at the same time. I think I got overwhelmed because Anna Karenina was on there
So
so
long.
long because, like, I'll read multiple at a time, but then I still need at some point where it's like, I'm not currently reading anything. Okay, time to start some more. Okay, then I'll have like 2 or 3, and then it's not overwhelming, but it got to the point where it was just overwhelming seeing never having it where I'm not reading anything,
Yeah.
even if it's just for an hour that I'm not reading anything.
I'm usually a one at a time person, and I've been juggling multiple books. So that's new and somewhat
Yeah.
stressful for me.
Okay, so how many books have you read now? Are you at 42?
I
Something
think
like
so.
that? Let's see.
43. Oh, wait.
Okay, yeah,
Nope. Two. I
44,
wrote
42.
down the same book twice.
Okay. Because I made it to 40. So you're
Okay.
still ahead. So I'm coming. Lena, you got to keep going. I'm coming for you. I got to keep pushing you
I'll get there.
ahead. You'll get there. Yes. So,
All right. Well, friends, until next time, we will see you later. Goodbye, book besties.
bye. So, thank you for listening to More Than a Book Club podcast. We are recorded and produced in McKinney, Texas.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.